All right, welcome to our Montessori Leadership Town Hall. We host these every week throughout the school year as a space for Montessori school leaders, administrators, owners to come together and just discuss a variety of school leadership topics. Today, we are joined by Rupali Sharma. We're fortunate to have her as part of our community. She's actually led quite a few of these town halls by now. She is the head of school of Tech Schools in Massachusetts, which is a wonderful Montessori school. And she's also a teacher and staff trainer in the Montessori space. So we're really fortunate to have her here to talk a little bit about developing kind of a training and development strategy for your staff. So I'm going to hand it over to Rupali. As always, these are collaborative, so feel free to unmute yourself and use the chat if you have any questions. All right, Rupali.
Thank you, Camila, and welcome everybody. I'm excited to talk to you about an important part of leadership, which is how do you prepare for professional development? How do you train your team? And when we look at our school, we want our students to be prepared. We want everybody to reach their full potential. But what about the adults? How do we make sure that they bring out their best when they are at the school? So I often think when they leave their car in the parking lot and they enter the school, what do they experience when they enter, when they are in the kitchen or in the cafeteria where they're getting their coffee ready? They go in their classrooms, they are working with their teammate, and then throughout the day, how are they carrying themselves? How do they experience the whole school? And then as part of their long-term journey at the school, what are the different touch points as a head of school that you have with them? Is it on a daily basis, weekly basis, quarterly basis? Do you have something that you intentionally plan to have an intensive work session? So we'll talk about all of these as we prepare for discussing the strategic plan for professional development. Um, Let me ask everybody over here if you can put in chat, what are some challenges that you have for professional development that you are facing currently at school? You may also unmute and just share your thoughts. Ideas that excite teachers, cost and time commitment. Cost and time commitment is always a challenge, especially for small schools. We'll talk about that. What is the prepared adult? Maria Montessori talks a lot about making sure that, when the environment is set, the prepared teacher um, is a big part of the child's learning experience. So, when do we create this time for the prepared adult? And here is a picture that shows our in-service week. We're planning the curriculum here. So all the teachers meet together and the administrators also meet together. We plan out the big calendar from January through December or from September through August. And what you see is on the wall are these large pieces of paper where we've mapped out the year and teachers are pasting little stickies of the different activities or the lessons they're going to do by subject area. So we have the children, so the primary teachers, the lower elementary teachers, upper elementary, middle school teachers. And then we also have a section for the administrators. What this exercise does at the beginning of the year, even before the students come in, the whole school, all staff members get on the same page. everybody knows that this is what we are going to be working on this year. And it's one of the most exciting activities at our school. Maria Montessori says, the adult must be educated before the child. The training of the teacher who is to help life is something far more than learning of ideas. It includes training of character. It is a preparation of the spirit. So it's not just the content, it's not just the albums, but it's the transformation, the spiritual transformation of the adult that happens through the training, through the work. And I often feel that it takes 3 years from, starting out as a new adult in the Montessori environment to becoming a trained teacher or a trained administrator, even. So some of the words that strike to me is, you know, to help life is something far more than learning of ideas. And when we think of the adult, we're thinking about how is the prepared adult presenting themselves? Um, what is your school's culture? Is the adult able to integrate and assimilate within the school culture? So everybody's training may be different, or there's some teachers may come from the same training center. But each school has their own flavor. And how do you bring your team to work with your vision, to work with the culture of your school, to make sure that the mission that you have is all going towards the same, same direction? And for that, when parents come in, visitors come in, when students have conflicts, how is the adult handling themselves or presenting themselves in those moments? What does it say about your school? So it's not just about do they know what to teach in the classroom, but it goes beyond just the content. Just going to. So I'm going to talk a little bit about myself. I started out as a parent in a Montessori classroom, and I was just amazed when I was subbing for the assistant teacher. The lead teacher was so composed. She was teaching the students um, a practical life activity, just coring an apple and tasting an apple. This was in the primary classroom. And I found that she was so quiet. Her entire demeanor was just that of peace and calm. And she had 20 students around her between the ages of 3 to 6. And everyone was quiet. It just seemed so magical. And I'm sure all of us have experienced this. We've seen this in our classrooms, we've seen this in our schools. So at that point, I thought, okay, I must take my Montessori training and really understand how does an adult get the children so quiet and so well behaved. And so I did take my training. I became a Laurel teacher and then eventually got into curriculum development. And when I did, I found that schools didn't have a STEAM integrated program, and while our children are growing up in this digital world, I think it's really important for them to understand STEAM. So I started the Think, Explore, Create school with the idea that it's a Montessori school with an integrated STEAM program. And we currently go from preschool through grade 8, and we have an online program for high school students. So, what are the gaps that teachers or what we see in the schools that we have? I see that we have the crunch for time, for cost. Somebody mentioned ideas. how do you create this time for teachers to work? So I would say, as we look at the whole year, we can break this year into different stages. We can say the first stage being that of um, getting the big picture. What is your school's mission? Have you done any work with the vision and mission of your school? If that hasn't been done, I would say start there. Um, I love this interactive sticky note work because we can move them around, we can play with them, we can teachers can take turns to go up and speak so that nobody has to present for a long time. Um, we can see you can do SWOT analysis of your practices. You can do what does the mission mean to everybody, take parse every word. You can also do what's working and what's not working. You can also do something as simple as who we are and who we are not. That was an excellent exercise we did with our staff because Montessori schools are very different. And for all of our teachers to get on the same page to say, who are we all together, it was really helpful to see that um, people brought their ideas and we said, this is what Montessori at TEC means, and this is who we are not. We cannot serve these requests from parents. So it helped all teachers and administrators get on the same page. So I would say, if you have felt there are any skill gaps, what are the gaps that you have found at your school where you feel teachers need to have a professional development? Something that we found, I would say, please share in chat. Or you can just unmute and also speak briefly. In our school, I found that initially it was bringing everybody on the idea of STEAM education. What does STEAM mean? And how can we integrate that in the curriculum? That was a big skills gap that we had. We also had a gap about spelling, teaching spelling through from one level seamlessly to the next level, all the way up to middle school. I would say, what are some of the gaps that you feel your teachers experience at the school?
Rupali, when you say gap, you mean what? Like a lack of skill or
Yeah,
what?
lack of skills. What skills do you think you need at your school
Hmm.
um, that you feel we need to have PD?
For the younger teachers, I think ours primarily has been what we call classroom management.
Oh, yes.
Not essentially knowing the material, but classroom management. And the other gap that I think has been kind of important is in terms of how to communicate the effectiveness of the Montessori curriculum to the parents, rather than just saying, okay, here is this lesson, that lesson, that. I mean, that doesn't quite sink in terms of the value that the parents are looking for.
Yes, those are really important skills that you talked about, Wali. I recently did a workshop for teachers on communicating student progress during conferences. This is a young school, this is their second year, and there are many new teachers. So, how do you get everybody to communicate effectively? Also, how do we share the curriculum? And it has been a wonderful journey for us because we used to do curriculum nights and we would have only those 4 or 5 handful parents who would come. And the teachers and the administrators got together and we discussed different ways. And now we send out 10 things you can do at home in the Montessori way, just a little leaflet on the day of the conferences. So they get to see some of the materials in the classroom, and they get to take this flyer with them, and they get some ideas about what they can do at home. We've also done some of the parent education nights on Zoom so that parents can be comfortable at home. They can take care of whatever they need to at home with the children, bedtime, dinner time. And we've also been able to share recordings of those Zoom meetings. So if they cannot attend at that time, they can attend later. With the teachers, particularly, I think you can meet with them in your team meeting and say what are different ways you can communicate. As I said, we found that not just having parent nights, but also different avenues for parents to come in has been helpful. Every week, the teachers have been sending out one element of the classroom work to the parents. So they'll just highlight on this week, we are highlighting the sensorial materials, and they write a short paragraph about sensorial materials. And then they show pictures of the children doing work with the sensorial materials. And so that has been another effective way of communicating the curriculum to the parents. I would say if anybody else has ideas about what has worked in your school, please do share. In terms of classroom management, that is a big one, Wali. Um, we have, we did a whole workshop on positive discipline, and that was really helpful. Every year during the summer, we do almost like a book club where we pick a book to read. Together, the staff and the parents all read that book, and in September, we have a book discussion. It's really helpful because then we can use those ideas that we've discussed during the book discussions, and then it becomes common language for everybody. So one teacher's not practicing one idea and the other teacher's not practicing the other idea, but all of us are together saying, okay, we are using the positive discipline approach. Here are connection before correction or whatever. And so parents and teachers are on the same page. Does that help you?
That's good to know. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other gaps? Let's see. We have Nicole who says, some of the gaps and skills are addressing neurodiversity, primary teachers understanding what toddler students have experienced before they move up. I would say that is true with every level, lower elementary students going to upper elementary student classroom, children's house going into lower elementary. Communication with parents, presentation skills for parent education nights, and then supporting children with diverse needs, strengthening leadership skills, parent communication. I think parent communication is a common thread across. We recently had a parent-teacher conferences. Now, not every professional development has to be a big event. If you have times when you meet with your staff, for example, we have weekly staff meetings. In there, we have a 5-minute education moment where a teacher, it's on a rotating cycle, and teachers can pick a topic to educate others about a topic that they're knowledgeable about. So recently we had a primary teacher who came up with phrases to share with parents. So for saying, instead of saying that the child is whining all the time, you can say the child speaks in a high-pitched voice. If you want to say the child is always acting up, you can say seeking attention all the time. So for for a set of phrases, what are the alternative words you can use to communicate with parents so that you're sharing the message, but at the same time, it's done in a way that's gentle and not um, kind of not demeaning the child in any way, still giving the child the dignity, right? So you can use weekly meetings. You can also use sometimes what we do is we have professional days set aside throughout the year. And during those, if you can ask your staff members to add to the agenda what are the skills they would like to learn, and you can pick that topic. You may invite a guest speaker, you might lead it yourself. So you can do that. In terms of neurodiversity, I would say that's a topic in itself. It really does take a teacher to observe, to be patient, to trust, and also for administrators to truly say, who can we serve at our school? We are not a special ed school. Montessori training, while it addresses the needs of many kinds of learners, I'm not sure if Montessori training prepares us for students who have high needs where they need an individual aid. And if your school doesn't have those resources, then your teachers are going to be spending more time with that individual student and not be able to attend to the rest of them. I think NIDO has done several town halls on uh, attending to neurodiverse students. And I think you can find some of the strategies there. But um, that is a big topic. And I would say you first have to identify who you can serve and who you can't serve. And then, in the range that you can serve, what are the accommodations you can make for those students? If they have an IEP, that's fantastic because you get the recommendations for the students. Some of the other presentation skills for parent education events, that's another good topic. And you can have some mock presentations among your staff members too. Now, when we come to the core of identifying what do we need for professional development, it's important to identify what are the needs of every individual adult who's working at your school. Much like at the classroom level, we individualize the work for the child and their needs. Every adult is at a different plane in their own development. And so, we have some young teachers and then we have very seasoned veteran teachers. So sometimes the young teachers will attend all of the professional development meetings, but some of the experienced teachers may use that time to work on something else that's important to them. So making sure that one size does not fit all, that you can allow for that differentiation is helpful. Sometimes also it is the challenges that affect the professional development uh, practices in the school. It depends on what challenges are your teachers facing. If the challenge is classroom behavior, doing a PD on language skills is not going to help, right? So just really identifying what is the challenge that your teachers are facing by talking to them, asking them, getting some kind of a survey, that's helpful. And then you can create the content and bring the instructors. So one of the things, professional development doesn't always have to be very serious. It's also mentorship. It's also celebrating. It's working on the bigger mission of the school. So at the beginning of a teacher's career or an administrator's career at a school, what are the onboarding practices you have? That is also part of their professional development. Do you give them a handbook? Do you give them Montessori books to read? Do you require them to observe in the classrooms? Do you require them to maintain observations and meet with a mentor or uh, a head of school or an assistant head of school regularly to share their observations and track their growth? So that's for the new hires. Now, teachers who have been at your school or administrators who are at your school, one of the easiest things to do is to have a mentorship program. People love to interact with people. And when we make that available within the environment, like it's the prepared environment for the adult, where we say that, teachers can meet with each other, they can discuss their issues, they can discuss their challenges, they can share ideas, then the head of school doesn't really need to be a part of it. For example, we have a new primary teacher and a experienced lower elementary teacher. So often the primary teacher and the lower elementary teacher get together at the end of the day to just touch base and say, here are my wins and here are my challenges. And the experienced lower elementary teacher can give some suggestions to the primary teacher to kind of help get through any of the challenges that she may be facing. This has so many benefits because it builds trust amongst the staff members. Also, the head of school doesn't have to be involved in everything. At the same time, the head of school depends on program coordinators as a bridge between the teachers and the head of school. So, making sure that you have time to meet, making sure that you create these mentorship programs early in the year is helpful. The other part is then sending your teachers for workshops or making workshops available for them. There are so many webinars available nowadays, online workshops available. But there is power in meeting in person. And so, do you have a regional Montessori conference? Do you have a national Montessori conference that you can send your teachers to? For that, you would have to plan ahead for your budget. And so, when you're planning your budget, setting aside that amount. Also, are there grants available within your school district, within other companies, organizations where you can access those grants for professional development? For example, in our school district that we have, for private schools, we do get grants for professional development. And so we can send our teachers to the local Montessori regional conference, and everybody goes there, they're recharged. Some of our teachers get an opportunity to present at the conference. So they're sharing their knowledge, building their network. And the more they feel empowered, the better the classroom is. Children in those classrooms thrive because the teachers themselves are innovators. They're also demonstrating that they're lifelong learners. And then differentiation. I said this before, one size does not fit all. So what can you do to tailor it to the individual need? We have one teacher who was passionate about the spelling program, and she noticed that while we were doing the Montessori phonetic uh, method, there was still some gaps in student learning. And so she asked if she could go for Orton Gillingham training. Now, the rest of the team didn't have to go. And now she has an anchored Orton Gillingham program that she offers to all of the students who may need extra support. So that has been helpful. Uh, Teachers who bring in specials, like our science teacher recently went for the STEM week, and she worked with scientists about how do you separate DNA, and then brought that to the classroom. But the classroom teachers don't have to do that. So just identifying what do the teachers need and what can they use. So in the chat, Dolores says that a few AMI training centers are offering great refresher courses. I think that's wonderful. I noticed that even with AMS, you get these bite sized webinars where you're talking only about language or you're only talking about math, just practical life. So it's great to have those focused workshops. Let's see. The American Jewish University offers excellent teacher mentor program, and there's a link. Thank you, Jill, for sharing that. So then we come to ongoing support and mentorship. So what are your consistent check-in points? Do you meet with your teachers? Is there a way where you're walking in the hallways and every morning, just like you greet all the students, do you greet all the teachers? Do you check in with them? How was your weekend? What's going on? Do you have a pulse on what's happening with them personally and professionally? Then having a open door policy where you can have office hours, or you can have an open door policy where you can say, if you have a challenge, you can always depend on me, come to me and I'll talk to you. So depending on what works for you, in some schools I've noticed that the head of school has office hours when the head of school is available to meet with the staff. What about collaboration time? Are you allowing that during staff meetings, during in-service days? Are you setting aside time? Um, and then teachers who perform, who do something uh, extraordinary within the limits of whatever your school has. How do you recognize um, their accomplishments? We have an administrator, and we are a small school, and so last year he put together a pricing structure for the summer program, which really helped boost our summer program and enrollment. And we are all experiencing the benefits of that. And so we recognized him in our staff meeting. Doesn't have to be big, but I think that recognition just adds value and shows to everybody in the community that, hey, we value this person for who they are. And whatever way you have at your school, you can kind of just make sure that every week those recognitions happen. I know at one school, I noticed in their staff meeting, they began their meetings with acknowledgements. And everybody would go around circle and acknowledge somebody in the staff for either helping them or saying something nice or kind or bringing something in that was thoughtful. And even those small gestures help with bringing the team together. You don't have to always have a big team building activity, or you don't have to go off site for building those bonds between staff members. I'd say, here I'd like to take a pause and ask, how do you check in with your staff members? What works for you?
Rupali, I have one question going back to recognition part.
Yeah,
Uh, it seems to me that recognition, depending on how it is handled, can be a double-edged sword in a sense that, you know, some teachers may feel that, hey, they're not being recognized because everybody likes to feel they're doing a great job. And
yeah,
let's say you single out one or two, then that could be a downer for the other one. So it's kind of a fine line how you manage it so that everybody feels good, right?
right. And that's a good point. In terms of recognition, it's important to establish what you're recognizing. So, what is your matrix for recognizing? Everybody is expected to do their best when they're in the school. But what sets somebody apart? Um, we have one administrator at our school where she keeps track of the birthdays and special events that are happening in the school. So what she does is during staff meetings, she just brings these wine glasses, tiny wine glasses, and she'll put some bubbly drink in there, non-alcoholic, but just having that special cheerful atmosphere, ambience. So people walk into the staff meeting and there are some goodies nicely arranged in a plate and these glasses, right? So it could be, Wali, I would say you would have to define what makes an exceptional um, reason for you to celebrate. Is it the success of an event? We just had a maker fair and it was bigger than it was last year. And so it was a time to celebrate, and everybody involved was acknowledged. But the person who led the event, we made a special recognition for her. So I think you have to look at your school calendar and say what are the moments that you're recognizing, and also on the teacher's matrix, what causes. All right, a parent was very upset and this teacher was able to resolve the conflict with the parent. That's a moment to recognize. A student was ready to be withdrawn from the school, but this teacher was able to convince the parent with this administrator. They worked together and they were able to retain the student. So I would say, what are the markers where you would recognize them? I think as a head of school, you should identify them. And if somebody is not performing and you can't acknowledge them or recognize their work, then it's time for you to meet with them and say, how can I support you? What is going on? What are your challenges? So it also allows you to say, what can you do to help them? Also, just like in the classroom, every individual adult is talented in some form or the other. So, what is that talent? Are we looking for those talents? Like somebody may be wonderful at making some arts and crafts and decorating your hallways for a parent event. It it doesn't always have to be connected to a student outcome. So I would say, Wali, just look at, what does every teacher bring in and what are their strengths and where do they need support. So does that help you?
Yes, yes. The two um, criteria metrics that are important, I think that we at least look at. I'm not sure how much formally we recognize. One is the uh, retention for the third year that the teacher
Yeah.
is able to manage. That's an important thing. And for the primary teachers, in terms of what percent of the third year students decided to stay for Montessori Elementary. And then that basically directly shows how effective she has been, not only preparing the child, but also communicating with the parents of
Right.
why this is important.
Yeah, and it is important that you make it clear to your staff what is it that you're recognizing, so that there are no surprises. Also, student retention is not just the teacher's job. It's the administrator, it's the teachers, it's the parent experience, and also the parents' goals for their child. So all of that comes together. So to just put the burden on one teacher uh, may not seem reasonable for recognition, but you might have to see as a team, how do you build that, retention for the third year students. We have Deb who says, one way that we've done this is to go around the group, turn to the person to the left and say something positive about that person or something you've seen in the past. That's such a simple way, but a nice way to even get people to talk to each other. Just turn to your left or turn to your right and talk to the person next to you. Thank you, Deb, for sharing that. So I've shared this in one of my previous presentations, but I'd like to bring this here is to why do we do professional development? First, you want to improve the quality of the outcomes at your school. Second is to have a cohesive team that is going in the direction that you envision. And for that, you have to hire and keep your innovative team members. So there are two ways of doing it. One is developing deep connections. We talked about that. People work with people. They don't work with buildings. They don't work with organizations. Organizations, buildings, schools are all made up of people. And so you have to make time to network. You have to make time to celebrate. If there's somebody going through a tough time, helping them through that time, just building that trust. And that happens on a day-to-day basis. So you can plan for this deep connections during the beginning of the school year or the end of the school year. You can plan it in the middle of the year a couple of times. That these are intentional days for your teachers to connect. On a week-to-week basis or on a daily basis, your regular check-ins also help build that trust. And then the skills development, that would be on-site opportunities, or those could be programs where your teachers attend, whether it's long-term, short-term. Those are things that you would decide for your school. So here is an outline of our calendar that we do at the TEC schools. So in August, we truly have this mindset of we are launching something new this year. And every year there is this new excitement. Sometimes we have new teachers, new families. This is the time to do strategic work. So we have team building activities. We might do lunches together. We might do breakfast together the first day. Sometimes we go off-site, even if it's a park close by. It doesn't have to be expensive. If your school can afford an off-site trip for your teachers, you could do that. One year we took our teachers to a local play area where there were these zip lines and rock climbing areas, which was a lot of fun. This is also the time to set up the classrooms, get all the backpacks or whatever materials you want to hand to the students on the first day of school, getting those ready. So this is the foundation of the school year. That's going to set the tone for the rest of the year. We take 1 week of in-service week that is just dedicated to building this team. We also look at the curriculum during this time, and we plan the full school curriculum. Now, September to November, that's when you get started with the work. You've done all the planning, and now how is it working? So weekly check-ins, staff meetings. We may also do some, we talked about daily check-ins with mentors who can do some sort of coaching. And then during this time in September through November, we set aside one formal professional development day. That's when teachers can go to other schools for observation. We can prepare for conferences with parents. We can do a skills development workshop. So that all happens during September through November time. And when we do the professional day, we do offer parents a 1-day workshop with one of the vendors from the area. Like it might be a make your puppets workshop, or it can be a robotics workshop. It could be creative thinking and theater workshop. So parents don't have to feel that the school is closed and they have to get childcare, but that's something you can offer to parents. Some schools I know also do half days. So you could take Friday half day, maybe 2 Friday half days to build in your professional development time. From December through February, the school is in full normalized mode. There's like really deep work going on. And this is the time when we're writing progress reports, you're changing materials on the shelves. We also, our team building activity is a holiday party. Everybody looks forward to it. Usually I host it at my house. And I've often asked, would you like to go out to a restaurant or would you like to do it somewhere else? And just yesterday, when I asked this question, they said, no, we're coming to your house because it's relaxed, it's cozy, you know everybody, and people can linger longer. So just making time to celebrate. We've been working very hard, and it's a good time mid-year to stop. I mean, look at so many cultures. There's the Festival of Lights, or Festival of Harvest, or a new year beginning. Many cultures take that time. The winter, the nights are longer. It's a time to reflect, time to slow down. And then when spring comes, there's new energy all over again. So March to May, we start looking towards the next year. And so while we are doing ongoing support, we start conversations about next year's contracts, giving teachers time to reflect on the goals that they had set at the beginning of the year, doing teacher evaluations. If we decide that we want to have new training, for example, this year we did a training on peace education. And so we invited Melinda Cropley. She also has been a speaker on NIDO, and she does the labyrinths. So we invited her to work with our staff, and our students enjoy the labyrinth work. We've been able to use it for geometry, for science, for history, language, art, and just at our in the Peace Corner too. So it can be a big picture training during March through May. You want to have that renewed focus again. We also do mission-centric work during this time. Teachers who have joined that particular year, they've had almost the whole year now to understand the culture of the school, the process of the school, and so they can participate in mission-centric work. And then in June and July, that's the time to kind of wrap up, slow down, celebrate, clean out all the environments, get your inventory, plan for next year, order materials for next year. We do a huge calendar review, what worked, what didn't work during the school year. And then we decide on our books that we are going to read during the summer. And often we'll do a team outing. Montessori teachers are pretty simple. A walk in the woods is a great team outing. Going kayaking is a good team outing. If you can do something more spectacular, you can do that too. So it always feels wonderful to end the school year on a good note. And so,
Sorry.
yes, Vali.
Do you have a 12-month contract or 10-month contract?
We do a 12-month contract.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah. Although the teachers work for 10 months.
No, I know, but basically, I understand that. The thing is this, in June and July, are the teachers available for these kind of things that you're talking about, or they're basically out?
So in June, let me just go back to that slide. In June, we have a couple of weeks of school. And that's the time when they wrap up, they start cleaning out their classrooms, they'll write the progress reports. That's part of the contract. They are required to be there. And then during the summer months, they may come and go if they want to, but we don't expect them to come to the school. Um, they are expected to read the book uh, with, it's on their own time, but they can do that anyway. They don't have to be at school to read a book. And the team outing happens within the first 2 weeks of June.
Yeah, it's the same setup that we have also.
Great,
Yes,
great.
yes.
Yeah, because also in the summer we have a summer program, and that some of the teachers who are working during the school year also work during the summer program. They don't have time to do any school classroom related work at that time. So I would like to bring back to everybody's focus, that trust is a big part of your team. If you trust them and you're not micromanaging them, then giving them training to be successful, giving them training to be independent, um, allows them to be confident in the work that they are going to do in the school. By making teams, you're showing that we are a collaborative school, giving them the opportunity to bring in new ideas, new materials. We have a history language teacher here. He's an upper elementary middle school teacher, and he's showing how he teaches American history, the Revolution War, using a board game in the classroom. And so all teachers are learning that, and they may take that learning to their classroom or just be knowledgeable. So recognizing that every teacher is an individual and every teacher is bringing in value, their personal talents, is important. You each classroom under the umbrella of your school can have its own flavor if the teacher has the autonomy and the choice. So if you invest in your teachers, and if you are intentional about it, then your school is going to flourish. And so just giving teachers the tools for reflection. How can I reflect on the goals that I had? What are the uh, benchmarks or the mile markers that you're going to use to make sure that those goals are achieved? I would say create those tools for your team that works. And then for every individual teacher, what is a path for them? What training do they need? And then the mentorship program to just create that atmosphere of collaboration. So I'll open the conversation for discussion or questions, and we'll take it from there.
Since everybody's quiet, I'll take the time to make a couple of comments
Sure.
here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Professional development, I think, in my opinion, is very, very crucial to a healthy school. So I really value that a lot. But the challenges that we find uh, are twofold. I mean, especially for like a younger staff who have children in the house and all that, like parents, they have very busy life
Yeah,
outside the classroom. So that's one challenge in the sense that they may have all good intentions, but they simply don't have the bandwidth. So
yeah,
that's one challenge. So in a sense that I think we have to deal with. The second group of teachers that we have who've been there for many, many years, not all, but some feel that they know everything they have to know. And they're really not kind of, they're in the comfort zone, everything is working okay, and there's no need for them to kind of do anything more. And so the challenge that I think as an administrator one has is how is there a way to kind of really light the fire under every staff member so that they basically come and say, hey, I'm really excited about learning this or learning that. How can you help? How can you help us?
Yeah, I
Then
think,
we basically driving from the top and saying, hey, you guys need to. So if you have any thoughts on that, I think I'd be happy to listen.
yeah, I think you have such a great opportunity with teachers who've been there long term and experienced and they know it all. And then teachers who are young and new and don't have all the time to do everything, right? So, why not create a mentorship program where you pair the experienced teachers and let them pair themselves? What we do at the beginning of the year is we create a list of teachers and we say, please connect with one teacher that you feel would be a good mentor for you or a good partner for you. And that's where the learning happens. So the teachers who are experienced, they know it all, wonderful. Please share. And teachers who are young, who don't have time to go to a professional development training, here's your mentor. Make sure you check in with them at the end of the day or the beginning of the day, or create lunch times together. We have a rotating schedule for lunch and recess where two teachers can take the time to work on something during that time, and there's enough coverage in the classroom and on the playground with our assistants or with special teachers. And so you don't have to make extra time and acknowledge that nobody has time, but here we are going to carve out time for ourselves. And so that might be one way to do.
I'll give you one example. I mean, I have a hard time basically motivating and encouraging my staff members, and not staff members, but my administration team to attend the weekly Nido marketing sessions because there's a lot to learn. I mean, every time I hear,
Oh
I
yes.
learn new things, and I basically, but they seem to be drowned in some ways in fighting fires every day and running a school. So they say, okay, for example, today, one of my staff members could not attend because the other administrative staff basically is out and they had to man the lobby, and so they didn't have time to. So they seem to be so much into basically, they end up spending a lot of time fighting fires and not looking at the bigger picture. And this is my own administrative staff that I struggle with, forget the teachers.
Right, right. Um, and every school has challenges like that because, say, you're short staffed on a certain day, there's a child who needs attention, parent who needs attention. Like you said, somebody has to watch the lobby. The great thing is that these are also available online later, and you can listen to them at 1.25 or 1.5 speed. And so you're not spending an hour, but less than that. You could make that available for the teachers. Um, I agree with you that finding time for teachers or administrators to attend these meetings is a challenge for many administrators, for many heads of schools. Uh, I also feel that it depends on the individual. We have some administrators who are motivated self learners, and they will go and find the resources. And then you'll also find people who, like you said, they know it all and they feel they don't need any more training. So, one thing that I've noticed some schools do, this is good in the public school scenario where they're required to have 16 hours of professional development. And some Montessori schools are adopting that. I think if you put that in your handbook and say all administrators, all teachers are required to attend X number of hours. We do 16 hours at our school, and those you can then split into you need to have 8 hours of skills development, 2 hours of social emotional, 2 hours of classroom management, 2 hours of XYZ. And now it's on their plate. And you can say, either I can help you or you can find those workshops. You can share the resources with them. You can also say, we can do it in house. If you do it in house, there's a hour added. So you might have to do that, Vali. I don't know. Maybe we can talk offline about
Yeah,
this.
that's true. Yeah, we are a licensed facility, so there's a licensing requirement from uh, the
Exactly.
system.
You're
But
required.
the sad part is, Rupali, is that those X number of professional development hours are not the kind of hours I'm talking about in terms of Montessori learning. They're more like a
Childcare.
yeah, childcare stuff. So
I,
that doesn't
I,
really help a whole lot in that sense.
I agree. I agree.
Mhm.
And then Jill's question is, how do you offer an exciting PD? Exciting depends on what is exciting to you, right? Like at our school, um, even the labyrinth work was exciting. We also have robotics. That is also exciting. Going to Orton Gillingham is exciting. So, what is exciting to you? I would say define that. Talk to your team members. You offer maybe 3 choices and say, which workshop would you like? Would you like to have? Like I said, last week I did a workshop with a new school on communication with parents during progress report times or parent conference times. And that was important to the whole staff. And the engagement was great. But if I had done something that didn't work for that staff at that moment, they wouldn't have been engaged as well. Much like the students, you have to find out what is exciting to them, where does their interest lie, and more importantly, as a head of school, where do you see the gaps? So that would make for an exciting PD. Any PD opportunities or plans that you have that you'd like to share? Well, thank you very much. I enjoyed discussing PD with you, and I wish you all great luck. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rupali, for your wonderful presentation. I think a really good way to structure the program, support staff overall, definitely conversations that are important to have. So we really appreciate your time and wisdom. Thank you, Rupali. You're getting a lot of thank yous here in the chat.
Thank
Next week, we're going to be talking about kind of preparing for enrollment season and what you can set in motion now so that hopefully come January, February, we're not in panic mode. We are, we're laying things in place. We're making sure we have open houses. We make sure things are being promoted properly. So that's what the conversation will focus on next week. So we look forward to seeing you there. And this recording will be available on our YouTube channel later today. So if you want to watch it back and reference the wonderful presentation, you can absolutely do that. Thanks again, Rupali, and thank you everyone for joining.
you. Bye.
Have a great day.
Thank you.